All right, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City is back with us. And, of course, you can read his must-win column every Friday in the Press of Atlantic City. And he joins us right now on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. The Milwaukee Bucks are the NBA champions, Mike. And I guess Giannis last night, now that is a epic performance, but I'm almost I love what he said afterwards. It's my favorite thing of the whole night. He basically told Kevin Durant, hey, dude, you're lame, you're weak, I did it this way, you suck. He's my favorite athlete now.
Well, he did it the old-fashioned way, right? Stayed with the team that drafted him. They built that team up around him, and he won a championship. So it's back to, kind of what we saw in the 80s and 90s there, basically, and not what we've seen recently, which is, guys coming together and forming super teams to win championships. I agree with you. Giannis is an easy guy to root for.
Very much so. Now, do you think this will be a new trend, or will they be the anomaly? Will they be, when we look back, we always talk, well, that Larry Brown-led Pistons team, they didn't have a star, but it's like, yeah, but they were the only one. Will the Bucks be kind of an anomaly now when we look back?
Well, Sixers fans better hope they're not an anomaly, right? Because Sixers are trying to do the same thing with Joel Embiid, so they better hope the Milwaukee Bucks aren't an anomaly. I think you'll see both ways, and I think it's important to keep in mind here that Milwaukee won it, and they did a great job, but they're a Kevin Durant big toe away from losing that series and a super team winning, which would have been a lot less hard or easy to root for if it was Durant, Harding, and Kyrie Irving parading around with the trophy rather than Middleton, Giannis, and Jrue Holiday last night.
Yeah, for sure. Now, obviously, he says afterwards, I could have gone to a super team and done that. Obviously, he's taking a little bit of a shot at Kevin Durant, maybe a little bit of LeBron in that angle, but does this make things a little different now with guys like Dame Lillard, Bradley Beal, when they try to decide what their futures are? What do you think about that?
No, I think those guys are still going to try to go and form a super teams and put themselves in positions to win. First of all, let's look at Giannis. I mean, Giannis right now, I think you really got to think of him as maybe one of the top 20 players in NBA history after what he's done. 2 MVP awards, 50 points, finals MVP, championship. As good as Dame Lillard and Bradley Beal are, they're not Giannis. I mean, they're not one of the top, arguably 15, 20 guys in NBA history, which after last night, after this playoff run, I think you've got to put Giannis in that class.
Yeah, I mean, at 26 years old, he's got somebody tweeted the other night, 5 All-Stars, 2 MVPs, and a championship. Jordan and LeBron both had not won a championship by this time, but I think it also shows that how hard it is to do. People just wanted this Sixers team like Christmas Day to get ripped out of a box and just start winning championships. Like, the greats had to wait. Giannis is almost the anomaly now.
Well, there's good news and bad news, I think, for the Sixers coming out of this, out of Milwaukee's win, as far as trying to win a championship, right? The good news is that Milwaukee showed the value of patience, right? I think during the interview last night, Giannis said he and Middleton had been together 8 years. Now, obviously, Giannis wasn't what he is now when he first went into the league, but that would be the argument for it takes time, right? Simmons and Embiid have really been only together for 4 or 5 years. Let's stay with them. Let's be patient because the reward could be coming 2 to 3 years from now. The flip side of that was when you look at these playoffs, and the revelation that I'm coming out of the playoffs with is, but if you said to me before the season, who's better, Chris Middleton or Ben Simmons, I probably would have said Ben Simmons. Now I'm saying Chris Middleton, and it's not even close. I can't believe, maybe it's just me, how much I underestimated Middleton and how good he is as far as a guy who can play in big-time pressure basketball games. So there's the positive is they had those 2 guys, and they gave them time to sort of marinate and come to fruition, right? The flip side is when I look at what the Sixers core is, I'm not sure those 2 guys together, given the time, can do it because of Simmons' limitations.
Do you let them marinate in terms of we're forgetting Tobias Harris? Is he the Chris Middleton that we're not letting marinate enough yet?
No, I look at Tobias Harris as the Drew Holiday in the group, right? As the number 3 guy. I don't think Tobias Harris is a number 2 guy. I think he's shown that in the past playoffs. Nice player, but I don't think Tobias Harris does what Chris Middleton did consistently in the playoffs. You look at games 4, 5, and 6, Middleton hit the biggest shots on a consistent basis. I think he averaged close to 25 a game in the final. Really, again, I completely underestimated him. I don't think Tobias Harris
which is interesting. It's a great point, Mike. The fact, though, that there were times in these playoffs that Middleton disappeared, and you were like, "This team's." And then the next night, even in this game last night, he comes down, he throws that ball away, and you're like, "What are you doing?" And then the next possession, he comes down and hits the biggest shot of the night. I mean, he was really, an inconsistent number 2 guy, but in the games they lost, you were like, eh. And then some of the games they won. I mean, that being said, he certainly was more apt and ready to do this than a guy like Harris is right now.
Yeah, or a guy like Simmons, right? I mean, I think again, he obviously had some bad games when they lost. That's probably why they lost. If he played like he
but to be fair, Mike, people forget they won some games without Giannis. That him and Drew Holiday had some big games.
Right. And
now
Drew
they did beat the Hawks without Trae Young.
Right. And Drew Holiday was inconsistent offensively also, but he was consistent defensively. I mean, I didn't think he was very good offensively last night, but he was tremendous defensively against Devin Booker. So, that's when you look at the Sixers, okay, they are the Bucks. Let's not forget too, the Bucks added Drew Holiday to the core this year, so they made some changes there. But when you look at the Sixers right now, I look at the Nets core. Obviously, Durant, Irving, and Harden is ahead of them. That Bucks core, I still got to put Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday above them. So now I put those Sixers in with the Celtics, the Heat, the Hawks, that group. I say to myself, even if you gave them time, Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris are not developing, in my opinion, into what Middleton was able to do in this series. That's why you got to make a move.
Got some text messages coming in. The Bucks winning is why the Sixers should keep Simmons. Ben is not done getting better. He's still 2 years away from his prime. I think there's too much of an overreaction because they lost to the Hawks. Fair or unfair?
Completely unfair. It's not an overreaction. We've seen Simmons in 2 Eastern Conference semifinals, game 7s, in the fourth quarters of those series completely shrink from the moment. He's not, and even if he improves, he's not doing what Chris Middleton does, which is what you need to complement Embiid. Look at this. Look at this. People got to look at this like they're Joel Embiid. You beat Joel Embiid in late August. Okay, he's put down the FIFA game on his PlayStation or his Xbox or whatever, and he's meeting with Daryl Morey, and Morey comes in and says, "Hey, Joel, we're going to try to win an NBA championship, and we're going to do it again with Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris." What do you think Joel's, reaction is? The Bucks did the same thing last year. They said, "Hey, Giannis, stay with us. We're going to keep Middleton, and we're going to add Drew Holiday." You got yourself an NBA championship. You can't. Simmons is not the ship has left the port on that one. He is not developing into a consistent scorer in a playoff game, which is what you need.
Yeah. Oh, I agree that you're not going to it's funny though. You watch what Giannis does and it's like you just say the inner will and want to me is the biggest difference in those two types of players.
I agree. I mean, you look at Giannis and you say to yourself, well, why can't Ben Simmons play like that, right? I mean, Giannis is obviously bigger, stronger. I don't want to say Simmons can be a poor man's version of Giannis. Simmons is big at 6'10", but I don't think he has the overall strength or size of Giannis. But as far as a similar style, as willing to embrace the moment as a guy who is not afraid to go to the foul line in the closing minutes of a close game. And last night he made his foul shots. If he doesn't make his foul shots, if he shoots like Giannis normally does from the foul line, we're going back to Phoenix for game 7, right? So,
yes.
Yeah, the mentality when you look at Giannis is you say, why can't Simmons play like that? Why can't he attack the rim rather than driving and passing the ball to Matisse Thybulle?
Now, does Mike McGarry look at the Giannis championships differently than the KDs, the LeBrons, that group?
I look at all championships the same. I think this is a little bit sweeter because it's kind of a homegrown. And obviously, look, I'm not a guy who likes to see all these kind of like AAU type of moves where, hey, you come join my team and we'll go win this tournament or we'll do this. Obviously that it's homegrown. I just think it's sweeter. And I also like the fact that Giannis is just an easy guy to root for. You listen to his interviews, his perspective on the game, his perspective of some of the stuff he said on life is just easy stuff for young kids, young basketball players to look up to and admire. And it's a little less mercenary, right, than the Brooklyn Nets, which is basically like, hired guns coming together to win a championship, basically.
Mike McGarry, and of course, you could check him out in the Press of Atlantic City. Fridays, his must-win column appears. You could check that out. The Phillies last night, I want to switch over to there real fast. Another stinko from Aaron Nola, and now Eflin's on the DL. So there were some positive vibes, Mike, when we talked on Monday, and all of a sudden, we feel a little different.
Yeah, how it changes from day to day, right? That's why I think we're going to have to wait out until July 30th, until the trade deadline to see exactly where we're at. But the thing I'm going to write in my must-win column for this week, give you a little preview on Thursday. It'll be online Thursday, in the paper on Friday, is I think when the Phillies, they obviously need pitching help, as you said. I think they need to, make sure that they get a vaccinated pitcher in here, because – do you want to acquire somebody who's unvaccinated, who might get caught up in, COVID-19, either getting it or contact tracing? Do you want to trade for a starter and have him miss 2 starts of the maybe 10 he's going to make to you because he's out 10 days? And this is getting a little hectic with pulling relievers off the field during batting practice, and now bringing up Spencer Howard today and having guys drive from Allentown to Yankee Stadium and then back to Allentown. This is no way to kind of run a ball team. So I think when the Sixers, they need some certainty, and that certainty means if you're going to trade for somebody, you might want to make sure they're vaccinated so they can be eliminated from 90% of the uncertainty that the Phillies have had to go through the last couple of days.
Yeah, Dave Dombrowski was asked about that on the John Clark podcast the other day, and he kind of said, yeah, it's something we'll consider, but if Craig Kimbrell is available and they agree to a deal, and that like, do you take that under consideration?
Yeah, I think you got to. I think a reliever. I mean, suppose you would trade for a reliever or a closer, and he's out for 10 days. And it's even more if you trade for a starter, and he's out for 2 starts and has to miss another start because he can't pitch or something like that. I think it's definitely a factor, and I just don't think it's the Phillies. I think it's something that every baseball team has got to look for, especially if you're renting a guy for 2 months, right? You're renting a guy for 10 starts. If you can't make 2 or 3 of them, boy, you got to think twice about making that trade. But there's no doubt now with Eflin out, with the bullpen situation they have, they need pitching. And like I say, we're going to have to see how this plays out till July 30th, because as you mentioned, it changes day to day. Mets are winning 7-0 today. The Phillies, if they play the Yankees tonight, if the game's not rained out, you could be back to 3.5, 4 games out and headed the other way now.
Things move quickly, as they did from Monday to Wednesday when we last talked to Mike. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. Read his must-win column at the Press of Atlantic City. Check it out in Friday's edition of the Press of Atlantic City. All right, Mike. Have a good one, pal.
See you. Take care.
All right, that's Mike McGarry here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN at AC Press McGarry. Give him a follow.